We start, though, with breaking news out of Georgia, where a gunman is in custody and at least 5 soldiers are recovering after being shot at Fort Stewart. It's a military base about 40 miles southwest of Savannah. The wounded soldiers were treated on site and then taken to an Army hospital. Law enforcement officials are saying there is no danger to the community. Anna Schecter joins me now. She's the senior coordinating producer for CBS News' Crime and Public Safety Unit. And we also have CBS News Pentagon reporter joining us, Eleanor Watson. Anna, though, I'm going to start with you. Walk us through what happened today. I know so much of this is still unfolding right now.
Well, sure. A call came into police on the base at 10:56 a.m. about a possible active shooter. They responded, arrived within minutes, and 5 people were shot. 5 soldiers were shot, we learned about an hour ago. And at 11:35 a.m., police apprehended the suspect. So it's unclear if they had to tackle him, if they talked to him or her, I should say. We don't know exactly the circumstances, but they were able to take the suspect into custody. They would have begun the investigative process. They want to start interviewing that person immediately to get as much information as possible and make sure that there's nobody else that's working with, alongside to support this attack. Meantime, those 5 soldiers who were shot were treated on site. There's a community hospital within the base. 2 of those soldiers, unfortunately, needed a trauma care, and so they had to be driven by ambulance to a trauma center in Savannah, Georgia. They arrived around 1:30 p.m. We don't know their status. I imagine their families have all been notified, all know, but we have not heard exactly what the statuses of the victims is, what their names are, or the identification of the suspect.
And Eleanor, I'm going to bring you in at this point. What type of protocols are in place on a military base when things like this happen?
Well, Nancy, we unfortunately see some of this protocol play out not in the way we saw today, but there are lockdowns regularly when there is even a hint of a potential situation. That's why when the lockdown was put in place this morning, it wasn't necessarily breaking news that there was a lockdown, because any type of threat, Army officials will act and spread information quickly. Then we got the terrible news that there were 5 soldiers shot. The soldiers, as Anna mentioned, were treated on site. There is military training where the soldiers around them would have been able to treat them. They're now being transferred to the community hospital and then the trauma center in Savannah, according to our local affiliate. So that's kind of what played out this morning. And what we're hoping to learn more is the severity of the injuries and any details about the shooter and motive.
And Eleanor, just to offer viewers some context here, can you talk a little bit about the type of work, the type of activities that normally take place at an Air Force base like this?
So it's an Army installation. It's the home of the 3rd Infantry Division, and it's about a 300,000-acre installation. It's pretty sprawling. And this lockdown, this incident was in the 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team area, which is a smaller part of the base, still large, but a smaller part of the base. And the 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team is one of the units at Fort Stewart that's trained in things like tanks, like Abrams tanks and Bradley fighting vehicles. There are a number of ranges on the base where there's training for that type of activity. There are about 10,000 people in total on Fort Stewart. That's not only soldiers, but also spouses, families, and civilians also on the base.
All right. Sounds good. Eleanor, thank you very much. And Anna, I'm going to bring it back over to you. What is the next step here as investigators look into this attack? I know that you said they're going to be asking the alleged shooter so many questions at this point. Is there any insight into what they know so far?
Well, they're all, in addition to interviewing the alleged shooter, they're going to want to interview as many individuals as that person has been talking to, who might have known about a plan for an attack. That's very important right now in these early hours. They want to know if anybody else was aware of this planning. Then they're going to start to build a timeline going back in the hours preceding the attack and the days and the months. So how do they do that? They collect electronic devices. They do a search of the home. They want to take any other weapons, but anything where there's an electronic footprint where the individual's communications, there'd be a record of that, because they want to look at even the Google search, online purchases. Was it like a situation where they were building IEDs and they want to collect all of that? So these hours right now that are unfolding as we speak are crucial to that investigative process.
We know you will stay on top of all this as always. Anna Schecter, very, very appreciate you being on with us, and Eleanor Watson as well.